Hello, I'm Daniela Elana, and you're listening to episode 91 of Historical Paranormal. In episode 91, we'll talk about the world's mass hysteria in 1938. It was October 30th, 1938, when a Martian spacecraft landed on a farm outside of Princeton, New Jersey, launching an attempted conquest of the Earth. But the Martian invasion wasn't real. People react with shock and fear to a CBS radio broadcast of the War of Worlds. The hour-long fictional fright produced by 23-year-old Orson Welles touched off a real drama. Radio listeners panicked, with some fleeing their homes and motorists clogging roads to get away. Radio listeners around the country feared an extraterrestrial invasion that never happened. The following day, a headline in the Johnstown Tribune read, "Mass hysteria hits nation at broadcast of Martian invasions." The radio drama is still talked about 83 years later. Bo Moore, longtime radio voice and host of the local show Laurel Highlands, now said Welles' broadcast was brilliant. "As far as I'm concerned, Orson Welles was one of the most creative minds of the 20th century, Moore said. "This is what put him on the map. This is what made him famous. The broadcast done in news report style was a radio adaptation of The War of Worlds, an 1897 science fiction novel penned by H.G. Wells. The suspense built as listeners were told that a Martian spacecraft had crashed on a farm in Grover Mill, New Jersey, unleashing a poison smoke and armed with a deadly heat ray. They began their conquest, only stopped by a disease rather than by guns and bombs." The program combined orchestra music and spot news bulletin. Those who were channel surfing and happened upon the radio drama failed to hear the disclaimer. That is, the show is fiction. That created panic in some quarters. The Johnstown Tribune ran from front page story of the fallout from wire services. The International News Service published a story from the Salt Lake City in which a telephone operator at a radio station, KSL, local outlet for the program, said that a puzzled woman called, then informed that the Martian attack was only a radio drama, cheerfully remarked, "Well, if it doesn't do anything else, it's made a lot of people pray." A United Press International report said that in Indianapolis, an unidentified woman ran down the main aisle of St. Paul's Episcopal Church crying, "The world is coming to an end." The congregation was hastily dismissed. INS reported that a New York man named Samuel Tisman said that "My nephew phoned me, frantic with fear. I turned on the radio, heard the broadcast, grabbed a few belongings, and ran for the elevator. When I got to the street, there was hundreds of people milling around in panic. Most of them ran toward Broadway." Louis Winkler of Bronx said he tuned in when the broadcast was half over. "I almost had a heart attack," he declared. The Secretary of the Interior was introduced. "I was convinced. I ran out into the street with scores of others and found people running in all directions." The story goes on to say the police were amused when some people claimed to have witnessed the disaster. "What do you mean? It's just a play," a Brooklyn man shouted over the phone. "We can hear the firing all the way here, and I want a gas mask. I'm a taxpayer." Another INS report said one Bronx man called police headquarters announcing they're bombing New Jersey. "How do you know?" inquired patrolman John Morrison. "I heard it on the radio," stammered the man. "Then I went up on the roof and I could see the smoke from the bombs drifting over New York. What shall I do?" According to an INS story with a Pittsburgh Dateline, a man reported to a newspaper that he had arrived home to find his wife with a bottle of poison in her hand, screaming, "I'd rather die this way than like that." Also from INS, this reported with a Dateline of Des Moines, Iowa, Senator Clyde Herring of Iowa declared today he would press for more stringent federal regulations of airwaves. In Washington, Franklin McNich, chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, announced that he would investigate at once. He said he had received no complaints, but the commission could investigate without having received complaints. Apparently, the broadcast was quite realistic. Subsequent investigation found that most radio listeners either didn't hear the broadcast or understood it was fictional drama, and the newspaper of the air overstated the fallout. Still, Welles himself said he made it real. I can't imagine invasion from Mars would find ready acceptance," he said. When asked if he pranked the country, according to History.com, decades later, however, Welles admitted the kind of response was merely anticipated by us all. The size of its course was flabbergasting. Could it happen again today? Moore believes something similar could happen today. "I think that we have many sources of news which people find that identify with their own personal beliefs," he said. "People are quite often fed stories that are exaggerated or aren't necessarily true. A lot of people believe that believe what they want to believe. More so, the legend of the world's broadcast continues to resonate. I see it as brilliant art, he said. I also believe as time passes, the legend of the story has grown. War of the Worlds will continue to be a unique case of mass hysteria, but not the only mass hysteria that has swept the United States and other parts of the world. People do identify with what they believe, and when people are in danger, they tend to see what they want to see. Thank you for tuning in to episode 91. Stay tuned for another episode. Until next time.